So for this part, we're gonna look at some of the options with effects that you see for Illustrator. So we're gonna start with a new document. So for those, I don't want anybody else to fall behind, so you may wanna stop what you're doing with the other one and then continue on this one. And I am not gonna name it here because I will save it right away. So do OK. Then go into File, and then I want you to do Save As, and then save it as C. Okay? So it's gonna be named C. Well, obviously the whole name and the C at the end, not just C. Just making sure. It's been a long day. Now, you already did this in one of the book chapters, but you did the text, you did effect, and the one you did was, what did you have to do? What kind of effect for text? You did a little warp, right? So we're going to do a little warp, but using, so select your type tool, and type your name. And before I even go into more detail on my type tool, before I type my name, I'm just going to go under my window, type, and make sure my character is showing. I just closed it, so let me open it again. Command T is the shortcut. I guess it goes with this one. And I'm going to pull this out. So I'm going to change my character, and I want you to kind of use the same one. So we're going to use the same type, Optima. And then Optima, don't just click, because it won't do it for you. You have to look at the options and choose bold. So Optima bold. Okay, Optima bold. Now the size, we're gonna make it a little bit bigger. I think I'm gonna do 36 points. And if it gets too big, we can always resize it. And then put your name. I don't care if it's lowercase, uppercase. I cannot spell my name. I think Optima is fine, bold. Now duplicate this name. So you have 3 copies. Original and 2 copies, so 3 items. So Command C, Command V to paste it. So you need 3 instances of this name because we're gonna do different things for each part of the name. So the first name, and we can select a color, and I'm going to choose, I'm going to look at my color, and I'm going to choose kind of bluish. Don't make it too light. So go somewhere, it can be mid, like this blue. So select blue, and I don't really care if it's blue actually. But select a color that's not too light. Okay, and what we're going to do with this one, only thing that we're going to change with it will be instead of having the fill, we're going to make the stroke. So just swap it. So look what I'm doing. Swap it. So it's swapped. Okay. Now, after you swap it, so you have only the stroke and not the fill for this one, this is where you're going to go under Effects. And you notice that you have Illustrator effects and then Photoshop effects, and some of them looks like it's almost the same thing, like Stylize. But what do you think the difference is between those two? Yeah, so Illustrator is vector, and Photoshop effects are pixel-based, raster, bitmap, whatever you call it. And they actually take much longer to process as well, unless you're doing some complex effects. I've noticed, like with 3D effects, the more complex you get, the file gets backed out. And sometimes opening it, processing it can be a pain. But we're going to go into Warp. So select Effect, Warp, and under Warp we have different options. And let's see, I think you used, which one did you use last time? Bulge. So we're going to use Wave. Let's use Wave. Right? So we're going to do a little wave. And always have the preview so you can see what you're doing. So notice we can do the bend somewhat. Oh, that is really bendy. So in the middle somewhere. I'm gonna make the intensity. Okay, so the bend for the wave, make it 100% bend. So it's kind of like it has a big wave. It helps if your name is long. If your name is short, make it, put a middle name in. Okay. Now these you can always go back to and they remain live, you know, you can always go back. Now horizontally, I did 22, but you can go anywhere between 10 to 30. Okay, so choose any measurement. I do 24, whatever. Then the vertical, do a little bit of vertical, but very small, like around -5. So this is kind of like what settings I'm using, and I want you to do 100% for bend. The horizontal warp, you can be around between 20 and 30 positive, and then distortion vertically around -5. So it can be -6, I don't. Okay, make sure you preview so you can see it. So how are we doing? You're with me? Okay, do okay. So let's leave this one alone. That's doing a little wave. Let's select our second text. Now I kind of want to fill it with color too, so I'm gonna do another blue. I feel blue today. Last week I felt pink and happy. Today is blue. And so now I'm going to select my second text, and we're gonna look at other effects, and we're gonna look under Stylize. And those effects you're gonna see. Look at that. Stylize has some effects. These effects even for Illustrator will be the same ones you're going to see for, I think the right corners may not be there, for Photoshop. And then Stylize here, it means different thing. So we're going to go Stylize, and what we're going to do, we're going to add a little bit of, I don't know what I want to do, scribble. We're going to do a little scribble. Now scribble is kind of cool because it can convert your type to a scribble. So you don't even have to use a type that looks like a scribble. Alright. Those are actually the measurements I used for the earlier class when we started. And so this is a good measurement to kind of record. So go ahead and do so. So do scribble options, and those are the options I want you to use, because I want to make sure you and the other class is the same. Consistency. But I'm going to show you how we got to it. So even though when you record these measurements, we're gonna play with it a little bit more. So record it. So once I do this one and I'm done with that one, we have one more text to use. And what I'm gonna do now with this text, before I do anything else, I'm just gonna leave it black, so it will be more visible. And we're going to do again Stylize effects, Stylize, and this time we're going to look at outer glow, which makes it glow on the outside. Now yours probably will be black by default. If it's black on the side, is it black? Double click on it and then select something more yellow. It can be like light green, yellow. So go ahead, double click on that black and change it. What is your opacity showing?
75.
Okay, change that to 50. And I click the preview button too, so I can actually see what's happening. Now the projector is killing us, so you're gonna see something different. Now what is your blur? I think I left it alone, 0.1?
It was 0.07.
Okay, so 0.1. So this is the measurements. Mode is still screen, and it's just the screening makes it lighter, right? I mentioned that before. And make sure you select like a yellowish color here. Then opacity 50 and 0.1. Just like a bright yellow, otherwise it will not be visible. A bright green. Okay, so you can add a little glow to it. Do okay. And we're done with this part of our document. Now just save it, Command S, so you don't lose the file, because we're going to continue on. I may actually move this here. I can actually move this here really quickly. So there it is. So I can actually have the room. So the next part is dealing with some 3D things you can do. And we are going to draw some things. And so we're going to start with shapes. So the things that we did now, oh Lord, this is the thing always has to come up in the most appropriate time. So click M on your keyboard, which we're going to bring up. It will bring up the rectangular tool. Now, that's okay if it's blue. The last color you use blue, then use the last color, whatever you drawn, and draw a rectangle. Look at my page size. This is my kind of where I want it to be. Now, you've probably seen this, that if I want to have round edges, if I go to rounded rectangle tool, I can do round edges, right? But it's not very controlled. I mean, the roundness of the edges, right? Unless you edit it. So you can actually round your edges much easier if you want to have them more or less control it faster by going into Effects, going into Stylize, and doing round corners. So preview it, and I want you to have 0.25. Okay, so we went into, again, Effects, Stylize, round corners, and the measurement is 0.25 inches. And make sure you preview so you can see it. Now we can see obviously like different things gonna be, but 25 is what we want. And it comes really handy when you're working with other effects on top of this one. It's gonna do a nice thing for you in a minute. So do okay. And after you drew this shape, we're gonna duplicate it. So select V on your keyboard. That will activate your selection tool. Then do Command C to copy and Command V to paste. Now one thing, when you copy this shape, I want it to be a little bit bigger than the one on the sides, okay? So I'm going to extend my width, but notice how little I go. Very little outside. Okay, so like millimeter, if you know millimeters. And I'm going to change the color of this one. Now you choose another color, can be light one. I'm going to choose a very light pale color. So whichever color you decide, this is not even pale enough. What other way I can change the pale to make it pale? Transparency, exactly. Now notice here, you have the option of, on top, you have the option of transparency, opacity. You also have more options, should be on the side here too. If you don't see gradient, go to window, no gradient, what am I saying? Transparency. Transparency. And then you have option with blending, and then the same thing, opacity, and then you have other options as well, right? So we're gonna change our opacity to, I'm gonna make it 70. But make it really light. So one on top has to be vibrant, and one in the below has to be lighter. So don't make them both pale, okay? So make one brighter. It's kind of like this. This one is more dominant color. Now projector is making it look crappy, but this one really is more brighter than the one underneath it. Okay. So once you do that, next thing is we're gonna do a little Tupperware. Okay. And remember you did a symbol, but it's gone now because, well, you have done one and it's a new document, so it's the symbols in the old document. So you can either create a new symbol really quickly, or you can just use the one we have, which is fine, because we're gonna need it in a minute. So now I'm gonna select my upper rectangle, go into Effects, 3D, and we are going to look at first effect, which is Extrude and Bevel. That makes it, like the name suggests, Extrude and Bevel, which is what? Now, you probably don't see this bottom part. This is more advanced. Okay, you probably see this, right? So click Preview right away. So you actually can preview what's happening with your shape. And you can play with it to kind of see what it's doing here for you, how the shape is looking like. Okay. So you can play with that a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna After you play with it, now this is the time to add actual measurements. So I'm gonna make 83. So we're looking at X, Y, and Z axes. What 3D does, it rotates your object also in space. So Z comes in, the depth, right? That's the depth. Then, I'm not sure what I want this one yet. I'm gonna leave it as default, and then, let me see how -3 looks like. And I press the stupid return. Undo. Don't do that at home. I keep doing this, telling you not to do it, and I keep doing it. So let me go back. It really changes. Like this measurement might be good right now when I'm showing you, but if you do this like earlier lab, we use the different measurements. So the measurements, I don't care if they're exact. What was it, 83, right? And then we did somewhere 45. It's fine. Let's leave it lopsided. And then -3. Let me see. So this is it. Those are the measurements. That looks almost good to me. So 83, that's the X axis. 45 is the Y axis, and Z axis -3. Now, a little bit lower, when it says extrude and bevel, it tells you the depth. So I want you to see what happens if I change my depth. We don't want to change it, right? Right now, we just want to leave it to 50 as default. Now, you also have the option here on the cap if you want to be filled inside or hollow. But we're going to leave it filled, so default. Now, the bevel we're going to change. Different kinds of bevels. If you click on it, you can see. Oh, Lord, what did I click on? You can see that different kinds. The one we're going to use for Tupperware is the classic. You can also, you notice, adjust the size to be less or more, but I'm gonna stay with the default 4. Just leave it alone. Now another thing you can do, this is where you can add artwork. You can add any artwork that is saved as a symbol to your 3D object. So I'm going to click on Map Art. And this is one thing, I don't understand why they haven't moved those around. Because really what you want to go with first is the surface. And you actually have to be able to see the object, you see? So this is actually where I want to put my label. But sometimes, and often than once, it comes up that it's not the place you want it. And I stupidly go to choose my symbol first, and then it's going to apply it to the first position. That thing annoys me. So I think Illustrator, hopefully you're going to listen to this, I'm going to send it to you. You should change those. Flip them. Because you need to have the surface. So if I'm looking at my surface and I want to put it on top, is that the right surface? Yes, it is. Because look, the red is selected. Then I'm going to go my symbol, and I'm going to choose the little flower, Gerbera. And then holding your shift key, enlarge that flower so it fits within the middle of your Tupperware. Yeah, Tupperware doesn't come like this, but we are going to do one like that. You can do some cool things. Now, notice one thing. I don't know if you can see it very well in my picture. And you can see that it's not really the lighting of this. It's not applied to the symbol. And you really want, unless you want it to be plastic, and you make sure you check shade artwork. So that way it's gonna apply the lighting that we're applying will apply to your symbol too. Okay. And do OK when you're done. For those who are running behind, look at the measurements again. Actually, one thing I want you to see, you can control the lighting here too. If you click on more options, this is the lighting, and I just want to discuss this. This is, and by default, I use the plastic shading. Now this is the source of the light, and you can move that. All right. You can add. Just look. Don't do anything. You can add new light to kind of illuminate it differently. You can control the intensity. It's gonna be applied to all of it of the light. 100 is the maximum. The ambient light. What is the ambient light? Kind of goes like that. Just look at my gesture because I don't know how to show you. And we have the highlight intensity. Obviously 100 is the maximum, the size of the highlight. So if I want to make it smaller, See how it bigger? Yeah, 90 was the default, right? And the steps. Now the steps, this is where when you have more complicated item and you have a lot of steps, it can get kind of stuck in there. So I'm gonna leave it as default. But I don't need those points, I can delete it. So I want you to do, just grab the one light source you have and move that somewhere towards the middle, but not exactly in the middle. It's like a top part of the middle. So let's see if you can see that on mine. So kind of see how the light source has changed. So this is the middle and like a little bit higher than the middle. Okay. Then do OK. So now once we did the top, then we're going to do the bottom. So same thing, same measurements, and we will not map any symbols to it. So same thing. Effects, 3D, extrude and bevel. Who can remember the measurements?
83, 45,
Very good.
negative 3.
Yes. 45 and then negative 3. Don't click on return because I do that too. And we have it now. You notice one thing you're not showing because we need to click on a preview. So make sure preview is selected. Now we're going to change other things here. We're going to change the extrude depth to 65 instead of being 50. And then the bevel again is going to be classic. And don't forget our light sources have to match. So you need to remember how you move the other one and kind of do the same thing. Because you need to have the same light source. Otherwise it's going to look weird. Right, so I moved mine somewhere here. Okay. That looks close enough. And after that you just click OK. And you can align those two. Now notice this. Which shape is before which one? So I can do what? Right click on my shape that I just did. Arrange. And I can just send it to back. So now both of them align. That's why you want it to be a little bit bigger. And then we have our Tupperware. Okay, so now once you have it lined up, I actually forgot to mention another thing that I mentioned in our class. So I'm going to draw that now. Because it does require us to draw some rectangles and very quickly. Just draw one rectangle. I'm going to change the color to red. And we should have done this before doing the other part. But this is just other tool to use under effects. And it deals the same thing, warp. So quickly choose effects, warp, and then do flag. Okay. Always preview so you can see it. Now 100 is way too much, right? So you want to get back to that middle point somewhere. I would say let's do around 35, around there somewhere. Okay. Now we're going to change the horizontal and vertical. Actually, I'm going to do, so I have my band around 36. You can do 35. Do the horizontal 0 and the vertical distortion, I left it like -4. So this is just another tool, and I apologize, I should have mentioned that earlier, but I don't want to leave out my Monday class. Okay, so then you can, so I just wanted you to see that not only type can be affected, it can be a shape as well. But moving on, the next thing, we're actually going to look at 3D as well, but I want you to see something first, okay? I want to draw something, and I'm going to use my pen tool. I just want you to see. Don't do it right now. And I'm going to try to draw a little, I don't know what this is going to come up to be, so give me a minute, because who knows? I'm doing this from my memory. Memory is never the best thing in the world to use, especially when I'm tired after a long day of teaching. Things get, okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of like, I don't know. What do you think that's going to be? Somewhere here is good. Probably wondering, what is she doing? You should be wondering. You should be afraid. And I'm going down here. I'm going to do half of the bottle, but I do a weird thing in the bottom here. Kind of looks like a, and honestly, this is a little bit too big. Those two, I'm just going to grab those with option, with the shift and move that 2 points. That's good. And there's a reason why I do that squiggly line, because we're gonna look at Revolve tool. A Revolve, what it does, it kind of revolves from the middle outside. So if you're doing that point, it's gonna go around this way. Make sense? So let's show you. So I have it selected, filled with color. Let me maybe change it to something else. Yellow. Oh, that's fine. Go Effect, 3D, Revolve. And we have those options. I'm just gonna do fewer options right now. And there's my little bottle with a big cup. So that was quick. Saved you some time. You're gonna actually, I think you're gonna do 3D later on, but that's a little preview of it. And so now, and obviously I undid it because you can do it now, and then we're gonna save it. So go ahead and do it. Drawing the shape. I'm just recording that. Then go, and you wanna see the lines, show your grid. That way you can see if that is following my grid line when I'm drawing it, okay? So that might be the best thing for you, use the grid. So go ahead. Okay, so I've done that. Let you continue, and then I did my own, and then I'm saving it, and we are done with the C part, and we are done with the exercises for today, so you can submit them.